Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, delegates, the learned speaker on this international webinar on economic development and job creation. The subject of webinar is really very topical and relevant today. I'm sure the wisdom or the jewels of wisdom provided by our learned speakers will go a long way to enable you to reorient your own strategies in business. You will be able to carry home some of the valuable ideas with you. As a president of NISBET, it is my proud privilege to welcome you once again on this international webinar, which has representatives from a number of other countries. A word about NISBET. NISBET was established in the year 1990, about 3 decades back. Its initial programs were on security, safety, management, and applied technology. In these fields, NISBET, with the passage of time, attained prominence due to a well-defined curriculum and a very well-designed and tailored methodology. Then they started including subject on loss prevention, risk mitigation, and number of teams trained by NISBET undertook loss analysis and risk mitigation audits of multinational companies and brought laurels to NISBET. Training in the field of fire safety with the JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, as well as training in respect of some defense personnel, recently retired defense personnel, to give them a second career, were also initiated and started and carried out by NISBET. With the passage of time, we realized that NISBET needs to have a research cell and a think tank. The research cell and think tank is meant to research into certain topical subject, into certain business subjects, and with this, draw out some innovative methods, innovative systems, innovative procedures, which may help in the production, as well as in the productivity, as well as profitability of the business enterprises, as well as we want to take up some subjects on social field and economic field. These are our aspirations, and in the passage of time, we hope to become an international think tank on these subjects. Coming to today's topic of economic development and job creation, I may add a few words. Growth alone, economic growth alone, cannot and does not necessarily mean that it is going to absorb more jobs. It is going to create more jobs. The pattern of growth, the nature of growth, the sector of growth, and the spectrum of growth are some of the important factors which have to be kept in view for employability and job creation. Some indicators which normally are followed are that we should find out population to employment ratio in a particular region, and that will give you some indication as to how this is being used, the development is being used for job creation. Others, they say, it's poverty reduction policies which are adopted by the government is also one of the indicator about job creation or job involvement. Then poverty reduction policies have to have an inclusive growth. It cannot be exclusive growth. Otherwise, the vice versa will not be proved, because you may lay emphasis on one and they may not lay emphasis on the other. So these two, that is job creation as well as economic growth, they are correlated and they have to be proved vice versa. Sustainability of the program is another important indicator because you start a program and by jerks, you go to some other program, leave that program, and with the passage of time, there is some depression. Again, there is unemployment. So sustainability of the program is very important. Some other points which normally policymakers at their level have to keep in view is that accessibility of all to education. Everyone should have a right to education. In a country, in a poor country, right to education can be probably free. And also the education and the training syllabus of the training programs have to be so tailored that with the passage of time, they provide employment, not only education, not only training, but employment. They have to tailored in that manner. Then measures and systems of vocational training have to be so devised that they ultimately lead to employability. Then they say that constant review of economic development and employment programs should be undertaken. I will only say that particularly in some countries where the poverty level is much high, we have to keep in view the statistics of unemployed poorer section of the society. I feel that since these two programs, there's two, that is economic development and job absorption or job creation are interrelated, it is very important that we correlate them in such a manner as to have economic growth along with job creation. I'm sure you will be listening to our erudite speaker. They will at length speak about it. And the session is going to be moderated by the chairman of NISBAT, Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia. I'll just say a few words about Pawan Ahluwalia. Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia is the chairman of Ahluwalia Holding Company, and this holding company has under its belt number of other groups like Premier Investigation and Consultancy, like Tax Course International, which is an assessment platform at the international level, like Premier I. Another program is an innovative program through cloud technology to blend various CCTV cameras for the surveillance. And the Skill India. Lakhs of assessments were done by Skill India under Skill India program. Then Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia not only holds these companies under his belt, he is a founder member of the International Business Research Association based in Hong Kong. He is a member of the WAD, World Association of Detectives, member of ASSOCHAM, FICCI, CII. He is one of the governing council member of the Central Association of Private Security Industry, which is the apex body of the security industry. He remained president and chairman of CII and is a awardee, Malcolm Awardee, as well as Kotalia Awardee. And I'd like to add one more word. It is surprising that when Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia resigned at a young age from the army, some of the people raised their eyebrows. Some of his colleagues whom I met, they said, we never thought that he'll be able to carve out a career or success for himself. Because they were saying, why he's leaving as a young officer, voluntary retirement. But with his push, with his persistence, with his focus, he has a carved out success, defined success for himself. He deserves to be congratulated for all he has done to the business committee as well as to himself by this approach. I'll now request Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia to finally come forward and moderate the session. Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia, please.
Thank you, Sripal sir, for introducing me the way you have done today. Before I start, there's a small story which says, when you want to introduce a person, everyone says, don't introduce me. But in the heart of heart, they want to be introduced. So let me introduce the president who's been speaking to you for a while. Mr. Sipal Singh is a former senior police officer who served the government of India for over 3 decades. He raised the Rapid Action Force, which was meant to quell communal riots, and he was its first chief. He thereafter raised the Internal Security Academy in Rajasthan, and he was its first boss. He was recognized multiple times for his service to the nation by the President of India. Even after his retirement, he has been an achiever, and he has been a champion of job creation. He has been recognized for his services after retirement by the President of India, the Union Home Minister, the Governor of Punjab, and several national and international institutions and associations. He is presently the Honorary Director General of the Central Association of Private Security Industries and APDI, that is the Association of Detectives and Investigators. He is an advisor to Premier Shield, and he is the president of NISBET. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a short introduction about our president. Today, I would also like to thank all the participants who have joined us from different time zones in Singapore, the United States, Spain, Bangladesh, Hong Kong, Ireland, New Zealand, Nigeria, Pakistan, UK, Bhutan, and of course, our Indian delegates. Our first speaker of the evening is Professor Dr. Aman Agarwal. He is probably one of the most illustrious economists that I know of. He has been honored as kings and heads of countries have been by the Saint Emilion Brotherhood in France. That's a very singular honor. He is a life fellow of ISME in Japan. He is recognized by France, Uzbekistan, United Nations, and Congo. He is also recognized by a university in Romania. His education is from Delhi University, the Indian Institute of Finance, London School of Economics, and Columbia University. He's worked at the World Bank. He heads the Indian Institute of Finance. He's on the editorial board of several magazines and periodicals. He's a frequent face on television. He's invited world over to share his views, and he has published numerous papers and articles and has advised governments on various issues. His interests range from international finance. He frames policies for job creation. He frames policies for financial development and economic growth. He has spoken to the Italian, European, Finnish, Swedish, Uzbekistan parliaments, and he's also spoken to the Chinese Ministry of Commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Dr. Aman Agarwal. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pawan, for that elaborate introduction. I would now, I'd like to thank also Mrs. Singh, who has introduced, and I was very happy that they are now looking at research, which is one of the fortes of an education institution in their own domain in terms of developing up, because it's important that we talk about research. The task given to me and the time frame given to me, I would like to contain myself within that in the next 20-25 minutes. And I'll try and do justice to the humongous task which has been given by Pawan and Mrs. Singh to speak about today on the economic development and job creation. I think it's a very important and a very rightful chosen topic, which actually deals with one of us from different spheres when we come to deal with this. I prepared a brief presentation, although I'll be speaking offhand, but this is just to give us pointers. The topic, as we say, is the future of economic development and job creation. These are based on my works and my co-authors' works, which we have, and we like to thank some of these colleagues and friends from different parts of the world who have helped us. Some of them are Nobel laureates in trying to understand this complex subject and then develop upon what we have to say today and in other works. These are our works, and any errors and omissions are our errors and omissions and should not be taken as those institutions we represent. Now, I will be going forward and talking about the following frameworks, which is the introduction with the historical perspective. Then I'll go to the digital influx, the life with corona, evolution of life, global government initiatives and global initiatives, and what are the challenges what lie ahead. And I understand that my co-colleague who is going to be giving his address will focus on large number of initiatives from his practical experience, long life experience, as well as on the job creation framework. So I will contain myself to different sectoral and economic aspects of it, and I leave it the real functional ground level reality for him to tackle. The first section is on the economic growth and the financial development. When we look at the historical perspective, I thought, it's important to understand that, for over 7,000 years, sciences and all, we have been doing a lot of activities. Chanakya's Arthashastra is there in terms of economics. I always call him the father of economics, and I've spoken that at various parliaments. It is not Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, which is the true first book in economics, but his book, because it outlines as to what has been going on and it is relevant even today, given the fact that it talks about the role of a civilian, the king, the official, and the society at large. And it's a very pragmatic view. The only thing we need to replace is the king by the president or the prime minister, which is currently heading a state, and the rest remains the same. And I go forward directly to the Nobel Foundation Economic Prizes. Before that, I would like to talk about this model which I have been actually presenting at various forums, including some of these parliaments, in the last 15 years or so, I would say 2003 onwards. And this is something which I would say has been coming through, and we can see that in the last 3 Nobel Prizes which have been won, I'll take one by one and bring that international perspective here. What I've been talking about is that, we have these frameworks, and if we want to actually go about looking at financial development, growth, and well-being, we need to create this framework where we are interlocking technology, environment, ecology, and human capital. These are 3 things which have been a key component. I think Pawan deals with them almost every second day with his work. I have seen him rigorously working on some of them myself, and the way he is concerned about the business orientation as well as people to bring in that sustainable development which Mr. Singh was talking about at his opening remarks, which is very critical in my opinion. But when you want to build these 3, that is technology, environment or ecology, and human capital, you need to have some binding factors. And this is where accounting and finance comes into play in terms of binding that. And ultimately, when you're trying to build this bridge between all these 3 resources to induce sustainable development, we end up getting this employment or growth and well-being as an outproduct of this, which is bounded by accounting and finance. Because no business, no government, no organization, no society can actually function without the liquidity which is flushed in by finance, whether it is a developed country or a developing country, a small organization or a large organization. In my opinion, this particular model is able to fit in at a grassroots level when we look at an MSME or a micro firm as well, and when we look at frameworks like governments. And I'm happy that some of these factors which I've been talking about have been given some kind of recognition. As we go along, we will see the Nobel Prize which have come up, and I'd like to take you through them. When we see modeling the account, when we look at the recent Nobel Prize which has been given this year, which was for improvement to auction theory and invention of new auction formats, this was last year, sorry. And this is where you talk about how do you bring in accountability, how do you bring in money, knowledge, and ultimately all that for the human well-being. So they are trying to club together the common value, the money, the knowledge, and to bring about. And this is talking about the way option theory, which actually deals with every one of us today, whether we are wanting to sell, buy a product, buy a firm, buy an asset, and that gets entailed into that. And then the new way of invention of this. previous to that, the Nobel Prize, which was won by the Abhijit Banerjee and Michael Kremer and Esther Duflo, was on the experimental approach to alleviating global poverty. Now, what they talked about was again doing at a grassroots level, small experiments to go up and build upon the well-being of the people. And again, this was on economic empowerment and building human capital. Now, this again entails on these all those three factors which I have talked about in my earlier model, which actually is entailed, and they do it at a practical basis of testing that at grassroots levels and building on. And that's when they say that if we are not able to provide for the health care, the basic health facility, they will not be able to, and food, and then they will be able to look at other factors. And that's how a building of a person is. That's where you're talking about uplifting them, raising them and bringing up. And that's where economic empowerment and building human capital on a macro level as well as a micro level. When you look at an organization or a small organization also, you need to build it on, you need to understand if you're not able to take care, if you're not able to provide them with sufficient funds, a sufficient good environment to work, or an opportunity for growth, or an opportunity to see where they can grow and be tomorrow, then you're not. I have another friend of mine who runs, Pawan knows him, Ashok Laha, who runs this firm called Intera IT. I remember he keeps telling me many times that he believes in the fact that his person who he has hired needs to go off the company within a few years. And he wants him to establish and make big things. And that's where he has put his footmark as a barometer in terms of building it up. The one previous to that, which was given to William Orders and Roma, was again integrating climate, technological innovations, and long-run economic growth curves. Again, it talked about knowledge and human well-being. With the integration of these three components, as I outlined in the first model which was presented there. Now, this again, when we look at the long-term economic growth, it has to be built with short-term economic growth. I will not be teasing or boring you with a lot of theory and economics concepts, but I'm trying to build them and interlock with them for you to understand that when you talk about economic development, when you talk about growth, when you talk about financial development, or when we talk about the fact that we are looking at job creation, these are three very critical components which have been given due recognition by even the Nobel Foundation in terms of building them up to build about knowledge, to build about human capital, and to ultimately build about the well-being, the human well-being. Because if we are not well-being, and that's what the whole year has been focusing on, we are not going to go through either this framework or otherwise. Last two frameworks which I would like to present before I go forward in terms of talking about what's happening around in the economy and how do we go forward. This is something which we proposed way back in 2002, that we need to look at a mix, both the government need to look at a mix of inflation and saving. Most governments target on one, either they target on savings or they target on inflation. It's a combination of both both these evils have to be taken together, because if either of them is too much targeted, like Frederick Mishkin talked about inflation targeting and introduced and did reap profits. But then when the same government was there in the initial time when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Honorable Prime Minister, they target on inflation, and we saw a humongous amount of growth which was compromised at the cost of inflation targeting. So there are implications of one of them being targeted. Savings has been something which we have been targeting from the very beginning when we got independence. And as a result, we have become a hugely saving economic framework. Officially, almost about averaging around 30 to 35% had been savings in the early 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and all. Now, that is also counterproductive in terms of growth. And this is where, when you're looking at financial development, we need to build upon both of them. As I said, some of the works which are always often quote, but Chanakya Kautilya is one of the ones, and especially the people who are joining in from international framework, they should read this book called Arthashastra, which is in English from Sanskrit is economics, and it actually talks about, it's available in large number of languages by some publishers, and almost about, I think about 100 plus languages it is available in. And it's a beautiful book which tells you about how do you go about dealing with even in your own personal finances and economics, and what you should take care of. And then there's some other works like Stiglitz's work on asymmetric information, which is very important. Again, Martin Wolf's on globalization, Hubert Fromlert's work on financial literacy, Mario's work on economic disequilibriums, and then various other works which have come forth, which we have referred from time to time. We are living in these uncertain times with in which is life with corona, which I say. And I've been speaking this from January beginning, because when I was first called in for an interview on a couple of televisions in the second week of January, I talked to a couple of head of the departments and doctors in various private and government hospitals here who I had known for a long time. And I asked what exactly is corona, and they said this corona has been there for about 3,000 years. I said, if it has been here for 3,000 years, what is that is going to make him go away in the next few months? He may live for another 3,000 years. Now, it's a question of life with corona, not without or behind or leaving it behind and so on and so forth. So that's where our Prime Minister also today came out stating that we are a few weeks away from the medication, the vaccine to be in place. Now, when we look at these pandemics, I will briefly take you through the way pandemics have been, because it's important before I go into the impacts and the sectoral analysis and what's happening economically worldwide. But it's important to understand what these pandemics have been. And we have been researching at the Institute for almost now from January beginning when this started, that what happens when such scenarios come, when it is a question of pandemic, when it's a question of war, when it's a question of man-made disaster or tsunami, what exactly happens economically? Now, we have not been looking at it from the human or the ecological perspective, but more from an economic perspective, what exactly happens? What happens to the well-being of people, the financial well-being of people, so as to say. And this is where, but we thought we should give this briefly another 2 minutes. I would like to go through the brief pandemic history which is there to give you an understanding of how things have moved on in life, and people and life has been growing and harping despite all what has happened. When we look at almost about 3,000 years, we see the prehistoric pandemic which took place in circa in 3000 BCE. We saw plague of Athens which took place in 430 BCE. We saw Antonio plague which took place in AD 165 to 180. Cyprus plague took place in 250 to 271. The plague of Justinia took place in 541 AD. The Black Death took place in 1340. In fact, in two of them, the plague of Athens, it was a news that the world is coming to an end. There is no more life tomorrow. And we are living here talking technologically, meeting, communicating, and doing lots of things. Even in case of the Black Death, which took place in 1346 to 1353, again, it spread like wildfire. Oh, the world is coming to an end. Most of them were pandemics. There's a difference between pandemics and epidemics, which is pandemics are contained within a specific zone, epidemics spread across the globe. And this is where the difference becomes between, otherwise the nature is the same. So most of the pandemics at that time were more like the pandemic were more like epidemics, but like pandemics because they were in a small zone. Even the American plague in the 16th century, even there they thought life is coming to an end. We had the Great Plague of London, the Great Plague of Marseille in 1720. 50% of the city had actually vanished because of this plague. Russian plague took place. Philadelphia yellow fever took place. In Philadelphia, almost about 55% of the people had to die. Flu pandemic of the 1890 was there. The Spanish flu, everybody knows because of the television now, how injurious it was, but we are still living, talking, enjoying fruits, enjoying our times, sharing knowledge, communicating. And this is where we saw, we have some of these still existing with us today. AIDS, 1981 onwards, still part of our culture and still we are living with it. H1N1 swine flu, which lasted till 2020. West Africa Ebola, the Zakira virus, still there. Corona, which is still there. So my dear friends, what I'm trying to build from this history, just to give you a brief note on this, is that there is a lot of hope tomorrow. It is not that we are at the end of the tunnel. There is a huge light which is there at the end of the tunnel, and that is where I see a lot of brightness, new systems, new economic frameworks, new policy framework coming forth. When we look at the segments, different segments of society, whether it's market, economic, social, political, economic, the social fabric has changed. As people stop communicating, it's a matter of time. There is a fear psychosis, but this fear psychosis is going to wither off with time in times to come. It's only a question of momentarily, because humans otherwise are social animals. They have to communicate, they have to meet, whether through internet or in physical sense or otherwise. And once the vaccine is there, the comfort level, the fear factor will reduce. Although in India, a country like India, the fear factor is very less. You can see the farmers' agitation taking place recently because of the government policy and the law which has come up in terms of agriculture reforms. Now, you hardly see any fear there. Everybody is bold enough to be sitting largely without a mask. When the elections were taking place in some states, they were the media covering and trying to do a poll kind of a system, and there were huge crowd there again. So the fear factor is actually turning down. I'm not saying that you should do it. We have to be careful what government of India and various international agencies have been saying. We must observe some of those norms in terms of hygiene, in terms of masking ourselves, in terms of social distancing. But this fear factor is diminishing off with time. As we have seen in India, large number of fear factors, whether it is a tsunami, people start living again in that zone. People start farming again in those zones. We saw Indonesia. Let me give you 2-3 brief examples. We saw Indonesia completely devastated because of tsunami. What happened? It was not growing. The growth factor for almost 4 or 5 years was not there in Indonesia before. However, it grew at a hyper growth rate immediately after that. When we saw World War I and World War II, immediately after that, things started growing. United States grew at the cost of building Europe after the World War II. So some of these unfortunate incidences, which are not to be wanted or not desired incidences, do create that growth factor. When we look at Europe itself, you see, when it started in February, I remember there were news before the lockdown also coming, oh, so many people are dying, irrespective of richness, poverty, every level people are dying. Now, naturally, when they're going to die, they will have to be filtered in by someone tomorrow. Someone will have to come and work in those positions. So naturally, employment, jobs on those sectors will automatically grow. There will be need for new. Today, we have a full pandemic motivated industry which is functioning today, whether it is in healthcare products or vaccination products or cleanliness products. There are X number of industries which have surfaced up. Some of them who were dying in the past have come out of it, and we could see the revenue streams coming up in due course again. Now, this social fabric has in fact intensified, and I will come to that in the later stage of my presentation, where I will share the experience and the thoughts which some of my fellow colleagues have expressed in some of our interviews which we did. And the social fabric, most of them have said, has actually strengthened because people got time to look at their own spheres, understand what exactly is happening, see, look back, and rethink about what should be the way of life they want to lead. Do they want to be in a mad rush, or should they want to lead a balanced kind of a life, take care of families? And this is across board. When I talk to my colleagues in the United States or in Turkey or in Germany or in France, in Japan, in Malaysia, everywhere they are having the same feelings that though there was a disruption, they were thinking that the social fabric will break, but it actually has strengthened, especially the family cultures have strengthened. A lot of people who had not visited in India, in towns, and coming from small villages, had left their homes and had not come back to their homes, had not seen their parents for 20, 25 years, have actually gone back out of fear or loss of job to their families. Their parents are able to see their children, their grandchildren, at times when they could not have seen them for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Now, these are some positive outlays. Yes, there are negative outlays that they don't have a regular income coming in, but they are not incapacitated. They are productive culture, workforce, and they will produce for themselves and for the nation ultimately. Political systems have changed. Political coalitions, we saw some kind of support. There's always opposition and supportism, but still we saw political movements changing world over. The need for actually go about not thinking about fiscal deficits and not controlling spending of the government has actually flushed up during these times. And not only now, whether it was the Spanish flu, whether it was World War or tsunamis, in all these times we have seen this kind of a thing happen, which actually gives momentum to the economic framework. When we talk of economics, yes, some have gone, some things have come up. Moms and pop shops, which used to be there, called in Europe so commonly, or small kirana shops by the side of your home, have actually propped up using integrated systems of technology, IT frameworks, and structures. Market failures have taken place. Simultaneously, new originations of market systems have come. Financial markets have not been under shutdown. In fact, large number of participation by a lot of people have come in, because I know a lot of people, small businessmen, who could not go to their works, could not do their job, so they had to spend their time. And one of the famous hobby they developed is going on to the stock market and trying to make money there, or to play around with the stock market and see if they can actually do good while doing. And many of them have actually succeeded. They are making their bucks and trading. And this was one market which had no impact, as a matter of fact, of COVID directly, because people were still trading. The market was active. Accounting and tax frameworks were still there. Live Corona with sectoral. Again, I will spend more time later on talking about the later three parts, but I would like to move on now. But I would like to mention here, agriculture is one sector in India which again was on full swing while Corona was there. And I am very thankful to the services sector, especially the supply chain management agencies and organizations like Pavan's, who have been actually the real soldiers along with the police and the government officers. They have, and the hospital doctors and nurses, they have been the real champions of trying to move goods and services from one place to the other without fearing for their own lives and other problems. So this has been there, whether it is auto, they come from any sector, this particular supply chain, anyone who factored into the supply chain actually strengthened that supply chain in this country. And we saw the strength this country had in terms of taking care of people at large. Talking about the way digital influx.
Can I just intervene? You just have another 3 minutes to go.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Pavan. So I'll spend quickly, but the digital influx which is there on the National Labor Exchange, which was there. So here I talk about the way externalities and the global environments play a role, and the government initiatives which have been there. The world has been perplexed with the global disequilibrium, interdependence, which is there, and that has grown over time. Is it bad? No, interdependence is not bad. Growth, unemployment, and labor have rechurned. Unemployment, as far as we go in economics, it has been something which has been a cause of concern for the government. I have not seen for the last at least 100 years, every government, any part of the world has been perplexed with unemployment. They need to look at solutions. Startups were some solutions. Small-scale industries were some other solutions. But still, we need more, because the population is growing much faster than the way some of these services and enabling factors have been growing. Some of the other factors which had come in and actually created the framework, the digital revolution has done a big bit. If we really see the way digital influx has come in, we see people, it has empowered the poorest of the poor. It has taken things, products, services from just the big industries or the big producers to the smallest of the small, who can now cater using. And we have seen n number of cases. Some of them are listed here, how things have actually grown up. And with the way even ICAI is now thinking of introducing the accounting framework as a 10th class because of the virtual frameworks which are present today, and that they can actually deliver. The Jan Dhan account framework, which the government has used for DBT and other facilities. Now, this is something which has some of the other graphs which I had, but in any case, like Pavan said, I need to contain myself within the time frame. So I will, in any case, leave this presentation with Pavan if they want to put it up somewhere or share with the participants for their benefit. But when we look at these externalities which are coming forth with the digital influx, it's important to also understand the way we have been talking about. And this is something which we actually proposed way back in 2016 and 17, both at the World Bank annual meeting in April and later on published work. And then Niti Aayog is looking at it. In fact, the Rozgar scheme, which Arvind Kejriwal has introduced, is nothing else but this, where we talk about that labor, which is considered to be not white collar, white back collar, it's number of hours in economic terms. How many hours of input do you give? It is actually a wealth. It is a self-regenerating wealth. Every one of us, we're spending this hour here. Some of us may actually end up gaining some points by the end of the hour. And that's where we actually add to our wealth creation. What we have proposed is to create an exchange, not the normal technical exchange which have been existing, but an exchange like the Bombay Stock Exchange, where employers and employees can actually pledge themselves, put forward, and actually do a deal of who wants to work, how many number of hours, and what is the pay expected. And this will automatically also automate the accreditation of degrees, certifications, and everything, like when we trade on equity. So what we talked about the labor hours as a wealth, and that's what we created. Now, I will just go briefly another 2 or 3 minutes, Pawan, if I have, to go through the well-being and then move to. These are some of the people I was fortunate enough to hold a series of series, which actually was not part of the program which we were researching on. But then we found the results to be really enlightening to us, and we thought, why don't we take their learnings, their life experiences? We conducted almost an hour, hour and a half, 2-hour sessions with each one of them. They're available on our YouTube channel for understanding the essence of life and growth based on their long experiences. And you will say these are some people whom we called from different parts of the world, we interacted with, heading different organizations from world over, coming from different dancers, artists, leadership coaches, vice chancellors, different people from different walks of life in the session one, which we'll be doing again in the recourse after this COVID settled down again, to understand if their perceptions have changed and other people's as well. So you can see people from all walks of life, whether it's journalists or government officers, defense personnel, and so on and so forth, we had interviewed. Now, when we interviewed these people, and as I said, this was not part of the study, but ultimately the results we found was so astonishing and interesting that we thought we would make it as part of our study as well, where we found that, they said the spiritual well-being, the physical well-being, and the social well-being, along with the mental well-being, is very critical. And these are some things which are commonly from their own experience. That is, positivity is important, happiness is important, kindness, helping others, soul consciousness is critical, spirituality, meditation.
Aman, you need to wind up. Yeah. You're running. I think you got to wind up. We're running out of time, please.
This slide, one more slide, and then I'll wind up. Spirituality, meditation, yoga, building productive habits, timings, health in real wealth, which is very important, which you're talking about, reducing digital influx with work stress, though we saw this complexity when I talked about digital influx, actually creating that framework, work-life balance, family, and balancing the flow of money for sustenance. Till recently, till demonetization, people actually had forgotten that how do we actually look at money? Oh, buy mobiles, buy cars, buy things. It was, spending. There was no accountability. Even at homes, they did not make budgets. But now again, they started doing that. Now, again, as I said, I'm not going through these, but I thought I'll just show this slide and give out. We have large number of opportunities coming forth before us. There are new ecosystems which are growing. We are going from global versus local. It is not. It's going to be a mix of all. Today, a firm sitting anywhere can do business. Pawan can do actually securities business sitting here for Singapore, for Germany, for France, and hire people across the board. Some of these setups have actually come in, and this machine learning AI actually is facilitating some of these to actually go forward. And with this, again, Pawan, I'll be ending that up. Very critical, in my opinion, is that we are also seeing the accountability of government and assessment, which is becoming very fast today. The government, whether in India or even outside, is not left with a chance, because there is an access to information which is creating this. The new normal is that you need to be optimistic. There are a large number of sectors which are opening up, which I thought I will discuss in the next slide, but given the time frame, I may take it up in the question answer. But agriculture is one which is very critical. Restoring that farmer's dignity, in my opinion, is very important. Giving him that livelihood is critical, because they have, even today, about 60 to 70% of the population is engaged in agriculture or agro-based industries. With that, I think, I would like to stop for the time being, and I leave it to Pawan then, if he has more time later on at the end, to give me another 2 minutes to talk about jobs.
Thank you very much, Aman. What a wonderful talk you've given. And now I take this opportunity to introduce Kumar Vikram Singh to the audience. I have known Kumar Vikram Singh for the last 38 years. And I dare say that he is one of the best leaders that I have met in my lifetime. He's a person who can motivate people. He's a person who can combine the people. He's a person who can drive the people to perfection. He is presently the chairman of the Central Association of Private Security Industry and the Association of Private Detectives of India. And he's also the chairman of his own business, which is Lancers Network. He has also been the chairman and president of the World Association of Detectives, a very singular honor. He's also an author. He's authored an encyclopedia of 7 books on security and management. He has been honored and recognized with many awards by national and international associations, including the President of India and the Governor of Punjab. On one of his achievements as an investigator, a British writer, I think it was Tanguy Hall, who's written a book, The Case of a Missing Servant, which became a bestseller in the United Kingdom. The story is based on what Mr. Kunwar Vikram Singh had done. According to me, Kunwar Vikram Singh is a diplomat, he's a politician, he's a business leader, he's a team builder, and a crusader for championing the cause of job creation through initiatives of manpower solution. For those who do not know him, he was a close associate and confidant of one of our past prime ministers, Chandrasekhar ji. I would now leave the floor to Kunwar Vikram Singh to speak to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pawan. So nice of to say such kind words. Of course, we know each other for so many years. We know each other very well. It is indeed a pleasure to come and speak to the audience here on this Nismat platform, and it's a real pleasure. And it is a pleasure once again to listen to such an eminent economist with so much of knowledge, unthinkable. I mean, this is after his talk, his experience, his knowledge, national, internationals, I am very small person. He's a sun, I'm an earthen, say what light, small little earthen, you can say a little lamp. So I find it very difficult to talk, after a person who's not an economist himself, who've been a soldier and a private investigator. To listen to these things is so mesmerizing. So much of knowledge has been shared by eminent economists to the generations right from the Chanakya. He's mentioned about Chanakya. And things went very well. When the Chanakya was followed by Indian emperors, things went very well in India. The problem started when the king was replaced by president and prime minister. You have a different mindset, absolutely different mindset. The mind of a king is entirely different from the mind of a president or prime minister. Things change because of the political interest. It is a political interest where a king never used to have a political interest. He's an interest of the public. He always thinks for the welfare of the public. He will not think of winning election to bring a totally, do away with all the economic theories presented to him during his time and duration as a prime minister. I have dealt with 4 to 5 prime ministers, and they had a very eminent economist to advise him. And I participated some of the such meetings where people used to say such a wonderful things. And after the meeting, those eminent politicians say, what the hell was he talking, Vikram? He doesn't understand the public. The difference, the economists think from a different perspective altogether, and the politician think from a different things altogether. He said, what the hell was he talking? What is he trying to tell me? What should I do? He doesn't know the grassroots requirement. He's talking about theories and all. And sometimes I believe these prime ministers also. You created so many economists in the world, and where are we today? Why those theories could not produce a better world? They all been awarded Nobel Prizes and Nobel Prizes after every years. You have wonderful people. You have the Niti Ayog, you have brilliant people, Why things are not happening? There is an inherent absolutely defect in our governing system. Until you look into that, and you dare not tell the rulers where is the defect, because the rulers, the prime minister, the ministers, they know everything. That's what they think. That's a problem with every nation. Yes, prime minister. She said, yes, prime minister. You are right. In this situation, you know what? The evolution has come. The civilization after civilization failed. I was the one who believed in the theory of conspiracies. Aman, I believe in the theories. I practice, I have studied. I know the new theories, why these theories are floated at the national, international levels with the economic background and financial impact. How you bring these theories to take interest of certain countries and individuals and business people. Say it the epidemic or the pandemic. I mean, this is why such things happens, and what kind of economic impact that leads to these epidemics and pandemics also. You have to go deep into it. I mean, so many people do talk, but they don't go deep into it. Because once you find out the theory of, under theory of conspiracy, that this has done, and that person or the group or the high and mighty people that throw you in the Indian Ocean. So it is entirely different situation. What I'm trying to tell you is related to the job creation. Now, how can you create jobs? In this situation today, 27 million job loss due to the COVID. 27 million. If you talk about job creation, how do you give the job to those people? I mean, it was not measured, it was not thought of, it was not even anticipated anywhere that this will happen. And in one stroke, we were talking about skill development, creating more jobs, when we were with the Ministry of Skill Development or with the NSDC and other places, how we should bring more rural people into a job and all that. But this pandemic, 27 million job loss. You have to think first how you bring these things on the rail. No theory will work, let me tell you. You very rightly said the people gone to the villages. This has brought a different change in the social, systems, talking to families. No money, absolutely. The unemployment situation in country is something 20-25%. This is a 4 times more than the United States of America. You see the list of unemployment in all countries, 8%, 7%, 11%, 18%, in spite of all the best economic theories we have. I mean, these theories are wonderful theories. They can only bring prosperity, employment, business, if you have a good, well-defined system of governance. So that is the main thing. When you don't have a system of governance and implemented those policies, only the person who got the Nobel Prize will enjoy the Nobel Prize. It will not, the benefit will not go to the people. That's what's happening in the economic factor also. Now to see the, I think the most affected once again is the rural youth. The unemployed rate in youth area is unthinkable. Now, if you see those, it's a horrifying. Absolutely, what will happen? I've been talking about the social unrest. Absolutely not anticipated. But if this job creation is not handled, and how you handle it? How can you create more jobs for the people? You must have money. You don't have money for infrastructure development, absolutely. And even if you have a money for infrastructure, what are you going to do? What kind of new factories and ports and airports and what for? Who will fly? Who will use those infrastructure? I have an example of many countries where they spend money on the infrastructure because that suited some big powers, big business houses. They wanted to do this to happen because of their economic factors. But in India, we have to create jobs. And I'm so surprised. I'm absolutely, I'm failed to understand the reasons now. How you will handle this thing is a matter of national, international concern. We, as a chairman of CAPSI, we talk about our growth is at 22%. I mean, so we have 9 million people in India who's working as a security guard. I'm trying my level best. We signed an agreement with SURJ, the American security regulators, to train these people in India, send them abroad, because nobody wants to work as a security guard in various countries. So I'm trying to creating more jobs for our private security people, for officers, for professionals, but that is not sufficient at the moment. So situation, according to me, as far as job creation is concerned, as a person like me with such a background, I cannot think beyond what I have in front of me, that is a private security sector. No, where else is that is not sufficient. But if the conditions start deteriorating this way, you may need our growth rate of private security may go to 50%. You create wrong situation in a country where everybody will be economically, challenged. Somebody will come and snatch your purse or tie on, or your car, or they do something with your factory. What will you do? My sector will prosper. Pavan, 50% growth, I bet. If these conditions continue, in spite of the brilliance of the economists we have in the world, but the people behind, the way you govern things are a biggest challenge. You need, I don't know whether you need Chanakya once again, or you need a Chandragupta once again to come in a different form to act and save the world. But I have my own doubts. And I keep my finger, I can't keep my finger crossed also. You have to get into it. Obviously, for the last, about, in spite of the corona, I'm in touch with many people. I'm in touch with many people because I have a concern. I have a concern for these farmers. For the last 5 days, I'm in a consultation with PMO, other people tell this is what's going to happen. Because I dealt with Punjab. Sipal Singh, you should know how the economy of the Punjab was sent into shambles absolutely. And in spite of being such a brilliant chief ministers and other peoples, what happened? No jobs in Punjab. People are running away. They're going to other countries and leaving behind what? Devastated families. Now, this, situation may be replicated in many states of India, even the world also. This corona and the conflict thing has had a very deep impact, which every economist must go back to the basics of the economics and also the basics of the system of governance, and who are the people who are going to govern this world and states and everybody. There's a mismatch. There's a misunderstanding between a brilliant man and a politician. So that has to be kept in mind. And I pray God that good senses prevail. First, job should be provided to 27 unemployed people. Huge number, big challenge, everybody. So this is the one area where government may be doing something, but you don't have money with the government. You don't have money to support your present system, but they're trying their level best. The Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is launched by the Prime Minister, is a one effort to support industries, to support workers, to support entrepreneurs, how to do it. But once again, the overall financial availability of the money is not that what can address this problem. And job creation will remain a very big challenge as far as I think, and economists and other people can find more ways to how to handle this situation. That's what I like to say. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. And it is, Pawan, it was out of my heart. I'm not a brilliant man. I'm speaking from my experience. I'm not an economist. I'm a simple, straightforward person who has just expressed my views on this and my concern. I'm worried about it. Thank you very much.
I think your concerns are felt by the country and people at large. Unemployment is a great situation which everyone has to combat with. And now we have with us Mr. Gopinath Rao, who's the Deputy Director of the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. He's also the Deputy Director of the Development Institute. And we just have about 5 minutes from him to be able to speak on what the MSME is doing for job creation. To give a little background.
Pawan, just a minute. May I have your permission to leave? I have another commitment.
You can leave, but there are quite a few people who are asking you questions. So I would suggest that you stay on for another 20 minutes and then.
No, that thing will be over, Pawan. This was a confusion created by me. You answer all the question or Sipalji can answer. All my question, both of you know the answer. And rest by the Aman. I think he will look after.
Okay.
I'll take your permission. I'm so sorry, sir. It was because of confusion at my level that I accepted another invitation to speak. That was a SOCHM. Thank you so much, Pawan. Give me an opportunity. Okay.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gopinath Rao has private sector experience of about 10 years, mainly in the textile and garment exports area. He has a government experience of 22 years. He has organized more than 200 programs on behalf of the government. He's assisted over 100 entrepreneurs to succeed. Presently, he helps connect the small and medium enterprises with banks, state government departments, and industrial associations. He will take a few minutes to explain to us some of the government schemes that are helping job creation. Over to Mr. Gopinath Rao. You're muted, sir. You got to unmute yourself.
Sir, good evening and namaskar to all. And, this is a very good program, and the economic development and the job creations, both are very important in the present scenario in India. And we are all experiencing the present situation in a destructive way. And we need a lot of mindset changes. Mind games, a kind of the fear factor what our earlier speaker spoke. That is the main thing, just disrupting all our business activities. So in this scenario, the MSME, the micro, small and medium enterprises, which is being the backbone of our Indian economy, and it's nearly constituting around, contributing around 30%, nearly 30% of our GDP. And it needs a lot of protection and the support of the government. And also our ministry has come out with a lot of schemes which will support the MSME sectors. And those who want to see job creation is another way. And if you don't get the job properly, there is an option for creating a self-employment options. That is also very important. So one side job creation, other side is promoting the self-employment. So if you want to go for self-employment, you have to identify more and more the products or the services which an entrepreneur wants to do it. And to begin with, now we have in MSME, we give a lot of training programs on how to select a product, what are the products available, and what is the marketing trend. So how to make a project report and how to make a market survey, because these are all very important for an entrepreneur to go through that. So once the entrepreneur gets all the informations, so it is during the training program, we also offer various informations and with respect to the state government schemes and with respect to the central government schemes. So all these things will be dealt during the training programs that will help the entrepreneurs to know how we can start the industries or the service sectors. So that is the most important. And we have a financial schemes like a Mudra scheme, Stand Up, or the Stand Up India schemes, or a CGT MSME schemes, or PMEGP schemes, exclusively for those who want to start the new unit. they can get the financial support from the Prime Minister Employment Generation Program, which is a loan up to 25 lakhs. So where the subsidy from 25% to 35%, the subsidy will be given to the starting entrepreneurs. So this is the best scheme. And another one, the entrepreneurs who want to start from the home or some small businesses up to now. Then you have Mudra scheme up to 10 lakhs from 550,000 to 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs. So this is the financial schemes which normally the through government schemes we are offering. And also because of pandemic, most of the MSME sectors are facing a lot of problems, cash transaction problems. So in that case, the working capital is very much important. So where we are giving Atmanirbhar MSME schemes that recently the government of India announced in a three phases up to package 1, package 2, package 3. In package 1, they announced around 3 lakh crores of support for the MSMEs, where they can take the working capital support from the bank up to 3 lakh crores. And within that, almost 2 lakh crores have already been sanctioned, and remaining is on the dispersed around 1.5 lakh crores. So still the government is extending the up to December 31st to make use of the schemes. To encourage the further, given the professionalist doctors or legal supporters, they can use these schemes. That way the government is supporting. Another one point is the MSME definition have changed to encourage the more and more entrepreneurs or more and more the MSME coming to the make use of the MSME schemes like micro, where investment up to 1 crore and the turnover up to 5 crores. So where that is called a micro industrial entrepreneurs, the small from 10 crores to 10 crores to investment and 20 crores up to turnover. So 50 crores turnover. So like that, so this is the, the definition, new definition has been changed, which will help a lot of entrepreneurs and also MSMEs to make use of the government of India schemes. And another part is to encourage the MSMEs, and to create more job facilities. See, there is a public procurement policy where all the central government ministries, all central government and organizations, they must procure minimum 25% of their annual requirements from the micro and small enterprises. That is the compulsory they have made. That means in that 25%, the 4% from the CST units and the 3% from the women entrepreneurs units. So that means to create a marketing support, marketing linkage from the PSUs. Now, every year we are getting the report, every quarterly report they should submit us how much percentage they are procuring from the micro and small enterprises, which will not only enhance their marketing link, but also gives a wide range of opportunities for the MSMEs to look into the marketing development. So, and the time to time, we also have a lot of group supporting industries like a cluster development programs where the MSMEs, micro small enterprises, if they come together, if there is a 10, 15, 20 and 30 units are coming together as a common brand, if they want to do a common product, common facilities, then under the cluster development programs, we are going to support up to 20 crores as the grant. So right now in India, around 80 to 90, the cluster units, they are functioning. In Karnataka itself, around 15 plus CFCs, we are all getting function. So like that, the industries are supported. Once these through schemes are we are promoting, and also the more and more the units are supporting through government linkages. And also state governments, we are also having a lot of schemes from the state governments. So once these state government schemes are being utilized, so the lot of MSMEs also come to the picture. So recently we have seen a lot of registrations in the employment front where the numbers are getting more and more job opportunities. So in there is, of course, there is a job losses in many sectors, but the only thing is in certain particular sectors the job is getting increased, especially in the food sector, food processing, where we are focusing and getting the information, and also the manpower, especially in textile and apparel sectors. There it is a labor-oriented, highly labor-oriented sector which needs a support. So, and we are in touch with all these sectors to how to increase the job opportunities, because the orders one side we are trying to increase the marketing linkages through public procurement policy, Another one is government has also developed one particular platform, that is marketing platform, that's called GEM. It's called Government E-Marketing GEM portal, where the all micro and small units know they must register in portal, and the buyers are all PSUs, public sector units, on central government units. So those units which are having a turnover more than 500 crores, they must register in the GEM portal. So that means there is a buyer and the seller is the micro and small units. So that means there is a common platform is being developed where the marketing can be assisted. So in the
2 minutes.
so in this case, say there is a marketing support, there is a financial support, there is a another is a cluster development program. There is a group of industry if they want to work. So like that, and also we are trying to give more and more training programs frequently, and also online we are also doing, and more number of technical sessions we are rightly now organizing, and also trying to involve and trying to join with more and more a group of people or group of organizations where we can jointly organize and promote more and more entrepreneurs. So the job creation is the most important thing. Or if the job creation is not possible to the certain level, then it can be shifted to the self-employment. So both the way the entrepreneurs needs support. So MSME across India, we have all the states, we have 2 to 3 offices are there working. Even I have worked in Northeast and I have worked in the North, especially in Karnal. Around 3 years we worked there. And the Northeast we have worked. So across India, we are just linked all through this one. And wherever possible, information we are sharing. And then what best activities, practices going in that area, we are sharing. And then from here, we are also sharing to the other MSMEDI, so that this is a uniform flow of information across all MSMEDIs, and to help the entrepreneurs and also the industries of that particular zones. And MSME, we have a website is there, our dcmsme.gov. Website is there, where they each and every, everybody can open it and see. And there are so many schemes are available, and various ways how an entrepreneur can use it and start the enterprises. That is the most important. Here, the manufacturing and the service both are viewed equally. This is the best thing they have done recently after July. So that is the best support, where service sector also being viewed equally with the as at par with the manufacturing sectors. So that is the one that gives a wide opportunity for all of us, and or especially for the entrepreneurs to get the government of India benefits. Thank you, sir, for giving me an opportunity to share my views about MSME sector. Thank you once again to all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions which have come up, and let me ask them one by one. One of the questions says, in your opinion, what more should governments do under the present circumstances? I think, Aman, you should take this on, please.
Yes, Pawan, I will take half a minute before that. I was talking about, you see, various governments have actually brought out large number of packages, financial stimuluses, which are there. Some may say they are stimuluses or not, that's a separate issue. But they are stimuluses, they are spending excessively. And that's actually, in this pandemic economics, which is coming in with large number of organizations, are actually going to spur. Now, what governments could actually do more is actually, firstly, and the foremost, is to get this vaccine to the people at large, and at an affordable price. The biggest challenge which they have, because if there is no health well-being, you cannot look at an economy, you cannot look at work sphere, you cannot look at growing tomorrow. If you do not have the comfort that I can have a cup of coffee with Pawan, because not all business can take place online, not all business and work can actually take place. Some places you need to actually, like security services, one has to be there, physically present. You know, even the web cameras, everything is there. It is not possible to actually everything put off the ground from a regular feature. Now, from that perspective, it is important that the well-being, and that's what most economies are addressing, but they're only addressing the creation of vaccine so far. This Indian government is actually trying to control it in terms of pricing, but fine, pricing is still there, but how do we deliver it? How do we make it cost effective? How do we are able to take it to the people at large? It's not a matter of people who are sitting on this webinar only to get that vaccination. Many of us can actually afford even the more expensive Pfizer and other medicines which have come in place. But the commoner of the common, the 70% of this population, and if we are able to do that, let me tell you, although my other colleague said He is not, but let me tell you, unemployment levels have been anywhere between 8 to 20% in the last 50 years, both in developed countries and developing countries, officially and unofficially. So it is not something which is something that we are seeing these figures. So it's something people have vacated, jobs have been created, new opportunities are coming, new businesses are coming. Everyone is thinking of new opportunities. So there will be this creation, but then the government framework. And the second thing which the government needs to do, not only in India, but across the globe, is to change this regulatory attitude. Most government offices have this regulatory attitude which is there. Like we saw with cars. NGT came out with an order 10-year, 15-year. A car in India, an Indian buys a car thinking it's going to be lifelong. I'm going to buy a car, it's going to live me for 50 years. Even after I die, my child will carry it with me. There you're telling the life of a car is 10, 15 years. Now, this is something which made the whole automobile industry go down. Once the removal of barrier came in, now we see the record sale which is taken is of 1 million cars immediately, which has been reported by the auto industry. Now, these kind of regulatory, even in education, in other healthcare also, there have been some regulatory bodies which have actually throttled. The regulators need to look at the industry as a helping hand, give them a helping hand, give them the supporting hand to go forward. And this is where I feel these two factors, if the government is able to take care of, other things will come in play. India has never been run by the government. India has been run by the people of the land have run the country. The growth, the opportunities, whether it is agriculture, I say 60-70% agriculture. Where is government in agriculture per se? Except for trying to create some storage facilities or mandis or enams, they are not there in terms of creating those products. 70% of population still engaged there, and they may be more. So from that perspective, I would suggest that it is important if the government becomes a big facilitator and gives a helping hand instead of just regulating as a watchdog.
Thank you, Aman. There's one more question that's come up. I think the president should take this on. It is our demographic dividend turning into a demographic liability? Mr. Deepal, sir, would you like to take this on? You're muted. You have to unmute yourself. You're muted, Sipal, sir, you're muted. Yes,
Hello.
now, yes.
I said this question was raised by me, that demographic dividend or demographic liability. We are getting large number of people highly educated. The idea was that education and training given to these unemployed people will prove a dividend that these unemployed people will get job elsewhere, where the demography is that there are more old people. We have got younger generation. Compared to any country in the world, we are the youngest as far as generation is concerned. So we thought that they will be going there, and it will prove as a demographic dividend. The other side was that if they are not able to get employment, if they are not able to get jobs, if we do not have avenues to absorb them, then there will be unrest. They're intelligent people, educated people, and at the same time, they want some job, the aspirations are there. But if they do not get jobs, there will be definitely social unrest starting from the mental assets. So instead of dividend, these people may prove as a liability. So the difference between the dividend liability is a very thin line, as Aman Agarwal ji has just now pointed out, that there is a drag. There are no doubt very good policies, but there is a drag. Every policy, there is a little drag on that. He mentioned about regulation. He also mentioned about throttling regulation. Actually, regulatory bodies are becoming strangulating bodies. Instead of regulation, there is strangulation. Once this grip of strangulation is lifted by the administration, or I say bureaucracy, then probably the fillip to growth, and regulation is all right, but not sort of strangulation. This is the second point on which I earlier also emphasized. The third point about demographic dividend is the sustainability. I gave these words, sustainable development. Our development should not go in jerks. There has to be sustainable development, and we have to see that these are the people who are available for employable people, how to absorb it. We go to one side, we start a training program, we start skill development, we do not know how to absorb, we leave the skill development, we go to another. So sustainability also is important to have the demographic dividend ultimately. Thank you.
With demographic liability emerging, what would your advice be as a formal police senior officer to the present law enforcement people as to what should they be prepared for in the next coming days?
Sir, I just referred, I got a reference Vikramji had pointed out, referring to Punjab. I was in Punjab, and I want to tell you that at the time of height of terrorism, the growth rate, agriculture growth rate, went down from 6 to 2%. You imagine how the terrorism affected the agriculture growth rate. Why the enforcement agencies came into being in a proper manner, and in the process we could bring about law and order, good law and order situation, and the growth again developed. The most important factor is that the enforcement agencies, again, same point, should not only be there to throttle, they should be there to go by the wishes of the people, irrespective of the fact that sometimes you have to be a little lenient. But this sort of middle path is more important. You do not go with a heavy hammer, and neither you go with a very, very lenient attitude. So I get enforcement industry have to have a middle path so that the development are related to the enforcement. This is my submission.
There's another question that's come up. It says economic development depends upon technology, and technology reduces jobs. So how do you balance the two?
Is it for Aman?
Aman, being an economist, I think.
He can give it.
I think, Pavan, I did in my slide show that it's supposed to be a balance between all the three. When you're talking of environment, technology, as well as human capital building, all the three have to be balanced well to actually bring in that sustainable development. It's not a question of A or B, because what do you do with technology if there is no human capital? If there is no environment, how do we survive? Now, this interlock between all the three needs to be balanced out to actually go forth. And just to add to the demographic dividend, fortunately, India has been blessed with over 10,000 years of existence. And the prime reason for that is the demographic dividend, which we have been enjoying from time to time. And I saw one question on said, when would this economy, this COVID, it's in your mind. If you end it today, I have shown you last 3,000 years of pandemics and wars and situations. We have overcome all of them. We are all surviving. We are living. We are eating. We are enjoying our lives. We are enjoying, cherishing our children, our grandchildren, and so on and so forth. Now, if we can do that now, it's in all our mind. Let's get it over. If we take necessary precautions, why can't we get over? AIDS is still there. 1981 it came. I know how much a big scare till even 1995 AIDS used to be. Today, no one talks about it. It is a normal functioning which is there. So I think it's a question of our mental aptitude of getting over it and getting back to work, getting back to our responsibilities, but keeping a balance. As those points pointed out by most of my speakers, it is important to keep that balance, keep that structure, whatever new you're entailing, get it. I think it's a recalling, it's this new normal which COVID has given us. One of my speakers, who is a doctor from AIIMS, a former head of the department, says it is Corona, Guru Corona. He calls it Guru because Corona has taught us a lot of things. I think that kind of an attitude, a positive attitude, will bring in that change, will bring in that. And let me tell you, all these people who are well trained, who have gone back from big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and all to the towns, some of them have come back, not all. They will enrich those zones because they will work in industries, setups, others, and create ecosystems like Pavan has created. I did not know about that he retired. He went out of army as a young officer. I did not know this particular fact, which I came to today. But he has created ecosystem. He is actually feeding families. Families are growing because of his entrepreneurial skills. Now, if he would not have come out, those hundreds and thousands of families which he's feeding, he would not have. So these people who have actually gone back to villages will actually reorient and bridge that gap which we used to say of rural, urban, that will actually diminish off and reduce over time with this new balance of people moving from one place to the other. And that's what I just wanted to add.
I like to add, if you
Yes, please.
I 100% agree with you that we have to have a very comprehensive overview in terms of revival of strategy, in terms of evolution of new market strategies because of the corona. Definitely, in this way, we have a little, Amanji has a little optimistic attitude. The new strategies will develop, new evolution things will come, and market will again stabilize. We have seen earlier also such pandemic and have gone through. Quite right. But the apprehension given by the second speaker, Kamal Vikram Singh, was that what is the immediate way? There are two ways. One is a long drawn out strategy to meet the requirement. That is, there are jobless people today. All right, new strategies will develop, comprehensive strategies will be there. And maybe with the passage of time, we have got much better strategies and we are able to observe them. What is the immediate remedy? Because immediate remedy, when lakhs and lakhs of people have been rendered jobless, what should be the immediate remedy? For this immediate remedy, I will again like to submit that I said in my opening remarks, it was reaffirmed by the speaker, learned speaker, Mr. Aman Agarwal, that there has to be a sustained economic policy. Not in terms of immediately you meet 25 lakh jobs, you create something, and tomorrow again there will be a drag on that. So my submission is that there are two ways to look at this epidemic. One is, yes, there is an optimistic approach. Yes, you will have new strategies. Second is absolutely a concern, as Vikramji pointed out, that what will happen to this jobless people. That is the second one. How do you have a comprehensive strategy as to meet both the things, that is immediate as well as the future requirement?
I have one question for Mr. Gopinath Rao. So you've served the government for over 22 years. If you were asked to advise the government of India as to what one policy that they should adopt which will create jobs, what would your advice be?
One is, I would say that first the industry should survive. Sustainability of the industry is very important. Once the industry sustainable starts, the absorption of the laborers or employees will start. That is a more important. To make industries survive, the other infrastructure facilities or as a facilitator, we should provide them all the supports. For example, I would like to mention here, there is one portal our ministry has at present they have developed. That is one is called champions.gov.in, where you have to address the problems of industries first. You have to make them to run so that the jobs, the more industry starts functioning. Once it starts functioning, the automatically the other things also starts. So that is a more area that is called champions portal gov.in, where we are addressing each and every industry's problems which is being posted in the portal. So either 48 hours or within 7 days. So like that, we are taking action. So that way, that one immediate solution is to make the industries to work more and more, because instead of, now there is a gap about 8 months. So the industry should start functioning more and more effectively through supporting of various schemes, government affiliate schemes. That's what I wanted to make.
Thank you. I have time for one last question, and this is, it is widely believed that COVID is driving business automation. Business automation will impact job creation. What is your view on this, Aman?
This is a fear which we saw in the 90s when computers came in. Everyone thought, oh, in banks especially, oh, my job is gone. There will be no more job for me because everything will be done by computers. We have seen these kind of fears which have come in from time to time, and they're not wrong, but there will be reallocation of jobs. Ultimately, even business intelligence has to be actually managed. The machine learning has also to be managed by someone. You need to upskill yourself, and they will be, you see, there is a limitation, a big limitation this artificial intelligence and machine learning has, which is of power and internet facility, which is not there in large part of country, and even in not here. When I go to countries like Sweden, when I go to countries like United States, in smaller towns, at times you don't have power. I went to New York, a friend of mine who was an attorney general before, I went to stay with him in a upstate New York near Philadelphia in a small place. He says there is no power, there is no Wi-Fi at all. You can only depend on landlines there. Now, these are big impediments when it comes to some of these. So you to think of that all jobs will go away. No. You see, moms and pop shops during this time in supply chain management have come the biggest handy framework. That is the next door shop. They call them in Europe and US mom and pop shop. Here it's the next door kirana shop. Now these people have come out to be the biggest handy in terms of actually supplying supplies, foods and other things during these times. So they have grown, and in fact some of them actually gone on the web, on internet frameworks like the various portals and grofers and things like this to help and go up the ladder. So I think it's only a question of that change. It's a question of understanding the change. It's a question of realizing that we have this new framework which we have to coexist with and go forward. We will still drink coffee. We will still have plants. We will still have a Mali. We'll have still these books. I remember London Business School, the professor, when a visiting professor there in 2004, they said, we have made our library completely digital. You see, the convenience of sleeping with a book is not a convenience of sleeping with Kindle or a mobile. That convenience can never go away. To put a page, to read, to reread, to think about it, to have it behind you, not only as a showcase, but to also be fascinated. I read this book. These are some things which some of the digital frameworks do not provide us with. And I think that's where the old school in India still survives with the new school. That's why we have bullock carts. That's why we have Goda Gadis. We still have hand rickshaws in this country. So everything from the needle to the spaceship which goes to the Mars is available in this country, and it will not disappear. So this is my humble submission. That's why I'm saying have that positive attitude. See how can I change? How can I build upon it? And your resources, your requirements will be there irrespective of whether COVID or no COVID.
Aman, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your excellent answers. And I'd now like to hand the podium back to the President to wind up the session.
My thanks to both in fact, all the three speakers for very, very brilliant deliberations. I'd like to only wind up that there are two types of drags. One is a regulatory or administrative drag by the government. One is a mental drag. Now, these two drags have to be cast aside, cast away, then only you can have a growth. You see, Amanji referred to 11th century. He says that we had a double entry bookkeeping, but we continued with the Bahi Khatas as well as with the Landas in our accounting book till recently. There was a mental drag. People were having that Bahi Khata with the red sort of thing and carrying on from tree. So there are sometimes mental drag which have to be cast aside. And there are regulatory drag which have to be cast aside. And top of it, Amanji has very beautifully projected. There's a need of growing and understanding the essence of life. He has not deliberated around that, but he has given a lot of factors which need the growth in the essence of life and also growth of the human capital. So these 2 points were the essence of his speech as far as I can understand. Apprehension and dangers projected by the second speaker, that is Kamar Vikram Singh Ji, were two as far as his own practical experience was concerned. But with the passage of time, probably the government will readjust some policies so as to meet these apprehensions of the industry leaders and the political leaders. As far as our speaker from MSME is concerned, there Shri Gopinath Rao, he has given the idea from the MSME perspective brilliantly, and we are thankful to him also. I am indeed highly thankful to all the delegates, all the participants who have joined us on this webinar, and I am thankful to the chairman for providing this opportunity to Nisbat to host this webinar. Thank you very much, everyone. We are grateful to you. Please look out for our next webinar.
Thank you. Thank you.
A word out to everyone. Our next webinar is going to be on the 21st of December. And Shiv Khera, who's a very renowned speaker, a business consultant, and an educator, is going to be talking to us on turn setbacks into comebacks.